Our best shot. We're in 5-6. We're doing example 3. Oh, yay, you get to do a proof. Yay, you! I'm sure you're just so thrilled about that. We're going to write a 2-column proof, so we're going to have to create our statements and our reasons, and there's going to be kind of a new inequality property that I need to throw in there. I'll kind of direct you back to the page that it comes so you can refer to that in your book. And if you want to include all of those in your electronic notebook, you certainly feel free to put that in there as a reference. One thing I do want to do with you, I visually do better when the triangles are not overlapped, when you separate them out. And so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of redraw the figure. So here's KLM, and I'm going to separate out from that LMN just like this, okay? LMN. Okay, that helps me. I don't know why, but it just does, and maybe it'll help you too. So first thing we always start off with is what are we given, and let's get that on the board. We know that that's given. And I like to mark the figures as I go along. So they're telling me that KL is congruent to NL. Okay, that's lovely. And that's a great place to start. Since we're in the hinge part of this, the hinge theorem and the converse, I definitely, when comparing two triangles, would look to see if maybe another side is congruent. And, you know, can you easily prove that? And I think we can, because I think you're going to see that LM is congruent to LM. And the reason why we can say that is because of the reflexive property. A side is equal to itself. Okay? So, you know, that's something to think about right there. Now, if you look at our end game, what we're after is we're trying to prove, and I'll darken this a little bit, this is what we're trying to prove, is that KM is bigger than NM. That's what we're trying to prove right here. Okay? So we need to do a little bit with the angle, KLM and angle NLM is really what we need to do is establish some information about that. So what I would probably do next, and we'd have to go back to the original figure to kind of see this, because I did separate it out. I like separating it out for obvious reasons so I can mark up what sides are congruent. But going back to the integrated one, you can see that angle L right here, we can do the angle addition postulate and show that, you know, the measure of angle KLM is equal to the big angle is equal to the measure of angle KLN plus the measure of MLN. Okay, and the reason is that's the angle addition postulate. You know, two smaller angles added together form a larger, bigger angle overall. Okay, so that's probably a good place to start, is there. And then look at your equation. This is where this new property comes into place. It's called the comparison property of inequalities. And what we can determine, because remember, we're really after angle KLM proving that it is bigger than MLN or NLM. Okay, that's really what we're after. So we're not really that interested. This is not what we're interested in. And this comparison property says, hey, if you've got an angle and it's set equal to another angle that's added to something, then automatically the measure of angle KLM has to be bigger than the measure of MLN. Automatically, because you're adding something to KLM to equate to KLM. And so and I did that wrong. I should have put an inequality here, greater than. We know that measure of angle KLM has to be bigger than MLN, because we know together MLN and KLN form the bigger angle KLM. And so that's a weird one, and we haven't seen that one before, but that's called the comparison property of inequalities. Okay, and I'm going to give you a page number to flip back to so you can look at that, and I hope that I'm smart enough to remember to mention that to you and have you put it into your electronic notebook ahead of time. So let me give you the page number. In your book, Connecting Geometry to Algebra, Solving Compound Inequalities is the title. It's on page 330. Page 330. So I'll put that up here. Page 330. There's some more properties there. Okay? And if you're like, I'm not exactly sure what she was talking about, then go back to page 330 and look that up and see if you can kind of track me just a little bit. Okay? Because that's how we took the leap from this angle addition postulate to creating this inequality, as we use that property effectively and appropriately to do so. Okay? And then step 5, now we're ready. We've proven that KLM, that angle, is bigger than MLM. And so now we're ready to say that KM is bigger than NM. Now we're ready to say that. And our reason, the Hinge theorem. We can use the Hinge theorem to kind of tie it in there. Can't use the Hinge theorem until you have two sets of congruent sides and that you know one angle is bigger than another angle. That the included angles, not just any angle, but the included angle of those two sides that were congruent. And so once you know that, now you can use the Hinge theorem to prove that one side's bigger than another. Okay? So save your questions. I'm sure you have some. Save those questions, bring them to class, and then let's discuss it in class. And thanks for listening.